All right, welcome everyone to today's webcast. My name is Jessica Gopalakrishnan, and I will be your host for today. Today's session is titled Reducing Errors and Rework, Project Efficiency. So during the next 30 minutes, we will be exploring ways to make building projects smoother, faster, and more efficient. So first, I thought we'd start off with talking about some of the challenges in projects. What do project teams face today, their real challenges?
Okay, Jessica. So a lot of the challenges that we see are, and I'm sure everybody's familiar with, is budgets and tight budgets and tight schedules. So the owners, they want the buildings done, projects done as quick as possible, but they don't want to give you very much money to do that, right? A lot of challenges we see, there's low profit margins for both the GCs and the subcontractors. That leaves very little room for errors and mistakes. The other challenge we see is inexperienced and unskilled labor. The workforce out there is not like it was when I started 28 years ago, for sure, where it seems like a lot of people back then took a little bit more pride in their work, had a little bit more knowledge of the types of work they were doing. And that gives a big challenge where the GCs have to do a lot more babysitting, a lot more watching the projects, being out in the field a lot more than in the past when I first got into the industry. Dave, what areas are your clients seeing and experiencing with the most?
I'd say, of course, a lot of the clients that I work with, they're seeing lack of skill when it comes to the trades, but more particularly, I'd say that on the tech side, I work with a lot of different GCs that they want to adopt technologies that some of their competitors might be adopting, but finding people on staff who are really adopting of those technologies, people who want to carry an iPad around and use those to do punch lists, is pretty scarce. I mean, they might have signed an intern or one of the younger guys on tech, but then also more as of late, I've seen a lot of companies struggle with finding people to help them on BIM when it comes to finding people who are well-versed or able to handle coordination, modeling, and all that. So a lot of the clients that I'm working with are looking to more outsource that kind of work. So definitely on the BIM side, I'm seeing a lot more struggles with some of the GCs in terms of inexperience.
Okay. One of the things also that I saw a lot was labor shortages. So I know we struggled when I was in the GC world with subcontractors, just finding a subcontractor to do some of the simple work. And the subcontractors struggled with finding people for their own. But the GCs also struggled finding people that are qualified. One of the big things I think contribute to this is vocational schools and the high school level kind of disappeared. I know at least in my area in the East Coast. The big push to go to college and have a career in that kind of industries where the trades aren't really looked upon as they used to be. So that provides a big shortage and then again, the struggle for the GCs to be able to get the work done on that time matter. And then a complication of the project designs themselves, right? The types of materials that are used nowadays. No, again, in my area, a lot of blast-proof type window assemblies and curtain wall assemblies, and the types of architectural designs that are currently now, BIM and 3D modeling allow us to create a lot more things that come to mind. Well, we still got to build those things. So next slide.
Fantastic. Okay. I've lost my mouse. All right, so let's get into some of the discussion points here. The first off here is high-performing teams are well-informed. Dan, you want to talk a little bit about this and why it's important?
Sure. So again, it's important to overcome the challenges that we're talking about, to come up with some sort of way for your document management to be uniformed, right? So again, at design phase, bid phase, and then through the construction, and then you have the turnover phase, it's having everybody on the same page as far as document management is concerned. One of the challenges if you have different types of systems is being able to pull and keep updated sets of drawings and things like that. So being able to early on establish the type of system you are going to have to manage all your documents and make sure everybody's on board with that. Again, your GCs, your owners, subcontractors, having everybody buy into the type of system you're using. What are some of the owners saying to you, Dave?
From a lot of my owners and development clients, I'd say some of the biggest struggles is definitely having it seamless, where the GC has their current set or their drawings in one platform. They struggle with having to keep up with their own drawings, the architects. They're seeing a lot of situations where, you know, maybe someone has something on an internal server, then it has to be transferred over to a cloud storage. So there's a huge disconnect between a lot of my clients and some of the GCs they're working with. There hasn't been particularly too many platforms that really have both the owner and the GC and the projects teams the kind of flexibility that would support them all, which is why they're trying to work a lot more with us.
Yes, absolutely. Again, you know, having that uniform way of being able to manage all that. For example, like latest sets of project docs, right? Your latest set of drawings. Who has access to that? Does the subcontractors utilize that? Are they maintaining their own set? Is the, you know, the CM on the job, is he maintaining their set? And then the owner, what do they have that they're looking at? So trying to have a place to have everything in one location and being able to update that all as fast as possible. Again, I can't tell you how many times to be out in the field. You've been in meetings, you've heard that there's an RFI coming, you know it's probably been approved, but you're still looking at something that's been, you know, the wrong way that you've been trying to work around for weeks. And to have that information sitting on somebody's desk just because it hasn't been posted yet is crazy. Or maybe it's posted to the latest set that is in the trailer, but the people in the field don't have access to it on their iPad or their phone. So again, making sure you have, you know, a way to keep all that in one central location and be able to have as real time as possible updates.
Great. Next slide. All right, we've got reducing time for turnover process. So how will this help projects teams, and how do they go about doing it?
Good question. So again, as built during the project. So basically what that is I've seen a lot of times, again, back in the paper world and even now in the more of the technical world, the technology world, is especially subcontractors, but GCs are just as guilty as this, is keeping an updated set. So what I mean by that is, you know, how many times where your subcontractor, they go do all the work and then they pull off the job because they're done, and you have to chase them to say, hey, where's your as-built? You know, I need a marked up set of drawings of how you put the footers in for the concrete and things like that. Trying to reinforce that they need to do that as they're building. That's why it's called as-built. Same thing with the, you know, as a GC, going into the trailer or marking up electronically or however, as you know, you construct the project. That way everybody knows how it's built real time. Maybe there's a problem with the way it's being put in. It could be caught by updating as-built as you go. And then waiting to the end to do all that, that's just delay of getting off the job, right? Moving on to your next project. Receiving closeout documents, that's huge. So again, you know, a job that's 18 months long, you know, you could be on there for months trying to gather all your owner's manuals and all your as-built drawings and all your documentation. Well, a lot of times, part of the submittal package, that should be included. If it's not, then, you know, getting it from the subcontractors as they're doing the work, or especially as soon as they finish, right? A lot of subs finish months, sometimes maybe a year before the job's done, but don't wait till then to chase them down. You know, trying to make sure you have all your closeout documents as real time as possible, just make you get off the job faster. And that's where you can actually, you know, start making up some of the shortfalls of the profit margins.
Yeah, when it comes to reducing time from the turnover, it goes hand in hand with reducing the different number of platforms and tools used, really consolidating the process on the field. I mean, I've heard way too many situations where the GC's on one platform, they have to archive on a different platform. It's not seamless, which just extends the process of getting all the necessary documentations and everything to the owners. I mean, Dan, how many, do you have any experience with projects where you've had multiple platforms, and I'd imagine it was a headache?
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many times where the project starts off, the bid phase, you're getting all your bid documents in, and you start going to the job, you're using one platform, maybe it's a paper, or maybe it's some sort of technology you're using, and then midway through the job, the team gets bigger, they implement some other type of solution, and then especially to close at the final, when you do a punch list and some other solution gets put in there, and next thing you know, you have 3 different drawings and 3 different platforms. You don't know which one's the latest one. You got people using one, set of documents in one platform because it's easier to use on a type of device maybe, and then the trailer has this type of platform being used, and the office using that platform, and then the owner, the poor owner, they're using maybe still paper, and there's no consistency, right? So again, trying to have that one place, that one sense of truth, all the documents go into, this makes your job run a lot smoother and faster.
Fantastic. That's some really great advice. And actually, I have a poll that I'm going to put up here real quick, and it's going to be, how often do you encounter delays due to not receiving updates in a timely manner? So here you go. Here's the poll. Is it 90 to 100% of the time, or 0 to 30% of the time at the low end? Go ahead and click on one of those buttons. Looks like most people are clicking the 50 to 70% of the time. 80, almost 90% people are right in that middle there. All right. I'm going to close that poll, and actually I think I can share the results here so you guys can see. There you go. And I'm going to move to the next slide now. All right, so defining a timeline for document posting. What's important about this?
So what's important about this is, again, establishing parameters early on, again, like we were talking about. So coming up with a timeline of RFIs, for example. So if I submit who's going to submit the RFI? You can allow the subcontractors to submit the first question, the GC, and then the process of getting the RFI answered, and then establishing a timeline early on. So many times I've seen where an RFI could go on for weeks, where, again, you're going to have some complicated ones, right? It's going to take some time, but some of the simpler ones, they shouldn't be lasting weeks. But establish that early on with your design team, your owners, and have everybody buy into what the expected time frame of an RFI answer is. Same thing with submittals, having set times of, build that into your schedules, right? So if the submittal is going to, approval time is a month for every submittal, whatever it is, week, whatever, build that into your schedule. Again, I can't tell you how many times we're going to, we're on a job site and we're putting work in place and the submittals are even turned in, or maybe they're sitting in some design team's desk. That's huge problems, and again, that's just nothing but cost to the GC, cost to the owner, cost to the subcontractors, and not having the right materials you're putting in place. Again, it's very critical. And then enforcement, have some sort of enforcement mechanism, and talk about that early on. Don't wait till a submittal came in too late and you're arguing back and forth whether you should have it or not, and try to enforcing that. Come up with all the parameters beginning at the project, and everybody's on the same page. And then making sure everybody's held accountable. Again, don't be scared to have those conversations with the owner himself. A lot of times, the design team and the owner sometimes are at fault for all these delays. Put them on, on notice. Document that. Again, when the end of the day comes and you end up being late on schedule like that, bring that up. Create a log and have that information in your hand. What are some of the clients saying about accountability to you, Dave?
It's mission critical. There's way too many situations where a GC has to deal with a subcontractor who said he was waiting and working off the latest set of drawings, but he really wasn't. Being able to track that information, being able to actually pull a report that says, RFIs were answered or created, and not have to chase down an email for documentation, not have to actually chase down emails to see whether submittals were approved, being able to go through a workflow, all that kind of stuff really extends itself to accountability. And you have accountability, it protects, the parties involved in projects. So it's very critical to a lot of the projects, and a lot of my clients are asking for in the tools they use is being able to track for accountability.
All right, fantastic. Next slide. Scalability of solutions for project size. So why is this important to project teams?
Yeah, so when it comes to a solution that a company is going to implement, they're looking, and a lot of my clients are looking for a solution that doesn't just fit a project that might have a huge budget. It might be something also that has a tight budget. Something that fits different terms, whether it's a long-term project or a short-term project. Being able to integrate into something they've already built. If someone has invested in either a cloud or their internal servers, they want something seamless where it can work during a project, but then it can also work with what I've already established. Maybe some of my clients have already established an automatic archiving to one of the cloud services that they subscribe to, rather than having to abandon that, but a solution that fits in, more of a plug-in, but can also take the entire range of what they're doing. So really being seamless into what they're archiving. So scalability is a huge portion of what companies are looking for when it comes to a solution for their projects.
Great, thank you. Would you like me to go to the next slide?
Yes.
All right, so the next one we have here is defining team roles and processes.
Okay, so again, designating a project team member early on, or members of your team. So again, at the early stages when you're deciding what kind of system you're going to use and the processes, is designating members within the project of the roles. So again, you got, I don't know, who's going to be in charge of posting the RFI, who's going to be in charge of creating your as-built set, who's going to be chasing the subcontractors for all their closeout procedures, and then establishing that with the subcontractor. Who on the subcontractor's team is going to be accountable and the go-to person for the closeout information or for the submittals? Who on the design team is going to be responsible for managing the RFIs? Is there like a central person? Is it going to be you got to have those go-to people and for the accountability part and just to get the job done faster. And also incorporate a service. That's something that definitely we can help you on, is having a service that help manage and maintain your documents. And then having, again, like we talked about before, having a designated process for your submittals and RFIs. What are your clients asking for in this as well, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I would say from a couple of years back, when we first started on some of our platforms, companies were asking for workflows. A workflow where if someone originates a submittal item, that it can go on to different approvals. So actually just released submittals workflow, and really tailored to having an actual workflow, not just I send a submittal item, I get it back, I send it on to the next person, but actually have it go through a process, go through specific different companies and specific approvals, and then everyone getting a notification once that submittal item's over, which extends itself to the accountability side, is what a lot of our clients were asking for.
Okay. And then another way would be tracking of subcontractor activity during a project. So, having a solution that can do it, maybe a daily activity report of access, right? How many people on the job that day access the current set of drawings? If you go with that report and say, you know what, Mr. Drywall guy, you haven't looked at the current set of drawings in over a week, that might be a problem. See who's accessing the submittals. I mean, how many times you do all the work of submitting the submittals and getting it out there, but nobody ever opens it up and makes sure that it's being followed. I mean, I used to see that all the time. And then photo management. That's a huge one. Everybody has a smartphone on the job site now. Everybody has a tablet that takes photos, and everybody's taking photos, from your owners to everybody, right? Subcontractors. But what are they doing with them? Are they just sitting on somebody's phone? Are they sitting on somebody's computer? you know, there's some system somewhere that only certain people have access to, you know, have a place to have, you know, full access of all those photos, and have a way to, you know, link those to a drawing, link them to areas, have them searchable. It's huge, you know, how many times you've taken pictures, 18 months later, somebody asks you, hey, there was a rebar put into that CMU wall. Well, I thought I took a picture, but you just can't find it, right? So now you're paying for scanning to be done just to verify, you know, that there's rebar in that wall. Things like that. Just having a way to manage your pictures in an easy-to-use way. What do you see as far as that's concerned, Dave?
I agree. I mean, when it comes to, you know, daily photos, being able to organize everything, have a custom folder structure, not just have photos on one device that are only synced to that device, but have everything continuous. I mean, it's not like everyone always brings their tablet to a job site. You might have situations where you might only have your phone, but still have the kind of capability that I might have on my tablet, where I can take a progress photo, or I can attach a photo to maybe a punch list item and not have to go to that specific punch list item to find that photo, that maybe that photo is automatically placed somewhere, or we actually have a way to automate all photos placed into a gallery. All that metadata searchable, which really benefits, because rather than having to search through folders and having to find a photo, I mean, you can't find and search photos unless metadata is attached to it. So that's one of the big pieces of photo management, and it is critical to every job.
Yep. Next slide, Jessica.
This one is becoming more and more critical. It's about being cloud-based and mobile.
Absolutely. So again, everybody on the job site, for the most part, has a mobile device, right? A lot of them are personal devices. You know, there's different, you know, Android, iOS. Having access to some sort of platform that can support all those types of devices is huge. It's really important. But have a way where the person who has the device can select what they need to have access to. So for example, you know, the drywall guy, maybe he doesn't want to have the electrical drawings. Maybe there's no need for him to carry around with him in his tool belt a copy of electrical drawings. So he can select that he only wants to use the architectural drawings, for example. And again, having access on a mobile device where there's no internet connection. So a lot of times, a lot of solutions, you know, rely on the internet. And again, I've worked in the Washington, D.C. market for many, many years. And I can tell you, after a certain time of day, especially in the summer, the internet coverage just doesn't exist, right? All the population of all the tourists come in there, and all the LTE coverage just goes away. So if you're relying on your mobile device to have some sort of cellular coverage, it just doesn't exist. So what do? You just go back to paper? I mean, that defeats the purpose, right? So having a way so your mobile devices can have that connectivity. Or if you're working in a basement and you want to get your latest drawing, but you know it just got posted, but you can't get it because you're in the basement, you got to come out. But it's also important is the syncing capability of the solution you use. I can't tell you how many times some of the solutions I've used in the past where it has a select button or something you got to push to sync. You know, you're at the critical stage of the project, you're at the punch list stage, you got maybe 3 or 4 people punching, you got 200-300 items you're punching out, putting on a list a day, and it's a Friday afternoon, and the team is working with you, is punching, and a member of that team goes to the beach for the week. Takes their iPad, puts 200 issues on there with photos. It's real critical to get it to the subs, and they put it in their truck, and they go to the beach and forget to hit the one little button. And now your whole week of all that data is gone. You don't have access to it. So having some sort of platform that is smart enough to know that, hey, there's internet connection, well, let's go ahead and update the server, and the server can be pushed back down to the device. Again, ability to all types of platforms. You know, some people have Android, some people have iOS. Being able to be cross-platform, and again, complete offline and online access. Next slide.
Training and implementation.
So the type of system that you decide to use, one of the most critical thing I would say is the ease of use, the training of it. You can spend lots of money on some sort of system that promises to do everything in the world, but if it's too complicated to use, it just will not be used. I mean, that's as simple as it is, especially in the construction industry. You know, again, like we've been saying, you know, it's hard enough to build a building and get it done on time and on budget, and then have to mess around with some complicated software you don't know what to do and don't know what to push, and it takes too long to actually update the drawing set, things like that. But also have a way the solution that you choose is having the backing, having somebody that can come out and teach the team members of how to use it. But not just the GCs. Again, we're saying that you should have everybody on board, the owners, the architects, subcontractors, and each one of those entities has different needs within the system and different expertise levels when it comes to just IT in general. So maybe a subcontractor's never even used a computer, and this is his first job on the, out there using the technology. So that kind of training is be catered to that type of person. Where maybe the design team, they're very familiar with computers, use systems like the system that you chose to use. So this needs a little bit of training. So having a company that could, cater to that type of training offset, but also be able to come on, do it online or do it in real time in person. But I guess what I'll leave you at is think about this. If a system that you do choose costs, I don't know, $1,000, $1,200 for 1 day of training on site, maybe that system's too complicated to use. It costs $1,200 for somebody to come out there for 8 hours and train 20 to 30 people. I would argue that that system is very complicated and, doesn't need to be utilized. Again, you're already struggling in all the things we've talked about, and you don't want to be bogged down in some complicated type of system.
Thank you, Dan and David. That concludes our webinar for today. Thank you all for joining us. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us.